Honestly, I don't know what it is with my family and trying to run my life, but I'm officially done. Seriously, I just want to live my life. But they're acting like I'm this horrible person just because my sister stole my spotlight, trapped her boyfriend to have the first grandchild, and now expects me to raise her baby because she can't cope. It's ridiculous. My husband, Dexter, and I have been married for a little over a year now. We met in college. He was studying engineering, and I was in business administration. We just clicked, like from the first time we met. It was just easy. We've been together for 6 years, and honestly, he's my best friend. The problem? My family and my sister. Arya. My sister. The copycat? Okay. So I have a younger sister named Arya. She's 24, and let me tell you, ever since we were little kids, she's been in this weird competition with me. Like, if I did something, she had to do it too, but better. When I was 7, I started taking ballet lessons, and 3-year-old Arya threw a fit until our parents signed her up, too, even though she couldn't care less about dancing. When I joined the school basketball team in the 8th grade, she suddenly became a huge basketball fan. She started taking lessons and practicing all the time, just to be better than me. The pattern continued through high school and college. When I got a partial scholarship to State University, she worked her butt off to get into an Ivy League with an even better scholarship. Our parents? They totally enabled her. They called her their golden child and acted like my accomplishments were nothing. I had to work part-time jobs just to help pay for my tuition, while they paid thousands for her Ivy League education. It was so unfair. It's always been about Arya. Dexter and the grandparent drama. Dexter and I were really happy. We helped each other through college and our first jobs. Our parents hated that we moved in together after graduation. But when Arya moved in with Kenneth right after high school, they called it romantic. It was so obvious they had a double standard. But Dexter's grandparents were on our side. They were so excited when we got engaged last year. My grandmother even gave me her antique cradle and told me she couldn't wait for me to fill it with a great-grandchild. Arya, of course, couldn't handle the attention I was getting. She couldn't stand that I was getting the antique cradle. So she started trying to steal our thunder. She convinced Kenneth, who wasn't ready at all, to propose. Then she suggested we have a double wedding, which, no, we told her absolutely not. She even tried to wear a white dress to our wedding, but my grandma shut that down immediately. A shocking announcement. 2 months after Dexter and I got married, we were at a family Sunday dinner. That's when Arya dropped the bomb. She announced she was pregnant. Kenneth looked completely shocked and uncomfortable. We found out later that she had intentionally gotten pregnant without telling him by just stopping her birth control, all because she wanted to be the first to have a grandchild. My parents, of course, were over the moon. Suddenly, our wedding was old news. All anyone could talk about was Arya's pregnancy. Every family get-together turned into a discussion about her baby shower or her nursery. My mom started buying baby clothes, and my dad started a college fund. My grandmother's antique cradle, the one she gave to me, was suddenly moved to Arya's apartment because, and I quote, she needed it more. It's just so insane how much they play favorites. The big ask. The real issues started after the baby was born. Arya quickly realized that having a kid wasn't just about posting cute pictures on social media. She couldn't handle the sleepless nights or the constant diaper changes. Kenneth wasn't ready either. They were both completely overwhelmed. Kenneth started staying late at work to avoid going home, and Arya would call my mom at 3 a.m. Crying about how hard it was. Then, my parents invited Dexter and me to dinner last week. Our suspicions should have been raised when Dexter's parents showed up. 2. My mom started talking about how stressed Arya was and how she needed a break for her mental health. That's when they dropped the bombshell. They said that since Dexter and I are stable and have been married longer, we should just adopt the baby and raise it as our own. They said it would allow Arya to focus on her life and career, and we wouldn't have to go through the trouble of having our own. My parents think we're just supposed to clean up Arya's mess. A new low. The next week, my mom and Arya ambushed me at work. They found me in the parking lot during my lunch break. Arya looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. She started crying, saying she and Kenneth weren't ready to be parents. Then my mom pulled out a temporary custody agreement and proposed a 6-month trial period for us to take the baby. She said it was God's will for me to raise Arya's child instead of my own. I was so furious. I told them both to leave and even threatened to call security. That night, they showed up at our house with Kenneth's parents. They tried to gang up on us and convince us to take the baby. Kenneth's mom even started crying, saying her son's life was being ruined. It was all so dramatic. But then Arya said something that really shocked me. She had already bought tickets to Europe for her and Kenneth. She was going to just drop the baby off and leave, assuming we would be forced to take care of it. I told her that if she left her baby, I would call CPS. That shut them up pretty quickly. Finally, our happy ending. The whole thing was so manipulative. The next day, I talked to my grandfather, who has always been the voice of reason in our family. My parents had told him a completely different story, claiming that we had offered to adopt the baby and then backed out. When he found out the truth, he was furious. He knew that my parents' favoritism had enabled Arya's behavior. He offered to give us a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood an hour away. He said he wanted us to get away from all the drama and build our own family without any of their influence. We moved into the house 3 months ago. We changed our phone numbers and installed a security system. We finally found some peace. Arya and Kenneth realized we were serious about calling CPS, and they've started parenting classes and couples counseling. My mom still tries to contact me through mutual friends, saying that I'm being cruel and selfish. But I'm not. I'm just finally taking care of myself. My grandparents and Dexter's parents have all seen the truth. They've apologized for trying to manipulate us. We're finally able to start our lives and our own family on our terms. Honestly, sometimes the best way to deal with a toxic family is to just get as far away from them as possible. The calm before the storm. Life in our new house felt like a different world. A peaceful, quiet world. We repainted the walls, picked out new furniture, and I finally got the library I'd always dreamed of. Dexter turned the other spare room into a home office, and we spent our evenings in our spacious backyard, just breathing in the fresh air. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for Arya to swoop in and try to one-up me. Our phones were quiet. The constant dings from my mom's texts, the incessant calls from my dad trying to guilt me into doing the right thing, it was all gone. We gave our new number to my grandparents and a few close, trustworthy friends. My grandparents came to visit often, and my grandmother even brought her famous lemon cake, the same one I'd taken to my grandfather's house on the day of my confession. It was a sweet, silent act of support that meant more than any words could. The whispers and the spite. But of course, the peace couldn't last forever. My mother, relentless as ever, began using my work email to reach out. The first few messages were short, just her begging me to reconsider and to think about my poor sister. When I didn't respond, they became longer, more accusatory. She'd write things like, "You're tearing this family apart and Arya is so depressed because of you." I felt a flicker of annoyance, but I just deleted them. My employer has a strict privacy policy, and I knew she couldn't get through. I'd roll my eyes and think, seriously? Mom? It wasn't my fault Arya got herself into this mess. She's the one who wanted the attention, who had to have the first grandchild. Now she can't cope, and it's suddenly my fault. Please, my father was just as bad, but in a different way. He was telling anyone who would listen that we had abandoned the family in their time of need. He painted us as the villains in his little story, the selfish couple who ran away from their responsibilities. Most people who knew the truth, and there were a few understood why we had to get out. But still, the whispers started. I ran into a former colleague at a grocery store one day, and she barely made eye contact. Her smile was tight, and she quickly walked away. I heard through the grapevine that my father had told some of my old colleagues a dramatic version of the story, where we had promised to adopt the baby and then changed our minds, leaving them in a lurch. It was such a twisted, awful lie. The unexpected apology. Then something happened that I never, ever expected. We got a letter from Dexter's parents. The envelope was thick and heavy, and I almost didn't open it. I expected more threats about his inheritance. But instead, it was an apology. They wrote that they were so incredibly sorry for trying to manipulate us. They admitted that threatening Dexter's inheritance to get us to take Arya's baby was wrong. They said they were just desperate and wanted to help their son, Kenneth, who was clearly not ready to be a father. It was a shock, to be honest. It took a lot for them to admit they were wrong. Still, it wasn't enough to undo months of emotional pressure and threats. We're still keeping our distance. It's one thing to say sorry, it's another to rebuild trust that's been completely shattered. The truth comes out. A few weeks ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. It was Kenneth. He sounded so tired, so defeated. He apologized for his part in the whole thing and admitted that he had no idea what Arya was doing with her birth control. He said he felt trapped and that the whole thing was a nightmare. He told me that they were finally in couples counseling and parenting classes, and that it was helping. He said he was slowly starting to understand that he had to be a father, but that it wasn't fair to force that responsibility on someone who didn't consent to it. He told me he was trying to get a handle on his own mental health. Too, it was nice to hear from him, but it also confirmed everything I already knew. Arya was so focused on having a baby to get attention and be the first one to have a grandkid that she didn't even think about the consequences. It's a human being, not a toy. Moving forward, We're so much happier now. We've joined a community garden and we're slowly making friends in our new neighborhood. We've also decided we're going to get a dog. We're finally building a life that is truly ours. A life free from the drama and constant competition. I haven't spoken to my parents directly since the big confrontation at our old house. I'm not ready. My grandmother keeps me updated on their antics. My mother is still upset, but my grandmother has been her biggest defender. She told my mom point blank that until she respects our boundaries, she shouldn't even bother trying to talk to us. It caused a huge fight between them, but my grandma held her ground. Dexter and I have been talking about our future, and for the first time, it feels like it's entirely up to us. We're going to start our own family, on our own terms. When we're ready, I have no regrets about the choices we made. It was the only way to save ourselves. We learned who truly had our backs and who was just trying to use us. The drama, the manipulation, the lies, it was all for nothing. Arya wanted to win so badly, but in the end, she lost everything, including her family. I am no longer defined by my sister's need to compete with me. I am no longer the shadow. I am my own person, with my own life, and my own home. And for the first time, that feels like enough.